One Question is designed to give subscribers valuable insights on how executive leaders in college athletics think about key issues on their respective campuses, in their departments, or within their leagues and conferences.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown and welcome to One Question, where we highlight executive leaders in college athletics. I'm here at the 2018 National Directors of Football Operations Conference, and I am talking to Callie Dale. She's the Associate Director of Football at Stanford University. Greetings, Callie. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Callie, you've been there for 6 years and working with football there at Stanford. And, of course, Stanford football has accomplished, well, Stanford athletics has accomplished a whole lot. The question I have for you is, can you describe the intricacies of your position in terms of, you do some managing of personalities, obviously there's a football operations, and how all the things you do benefit Stanford football, but also how it benefits Stanford athletics as a whole?
Sure. So the majority of my job entails organizing people and making sure that everyone's on the same page. I put out a lot of fires. One of the really important parts of my job is being the bridge from our football program, our coaches and our student athletes, and our head coach, of course, bridging all the departments of our athletic department. So whether that be external relations or development or fundraising or compliance or administration or even the folks on campus like housing and dining and academics, we're really the leg from the football program to those individual departments. And a lot of my job is building relationships with those people and making sure that we have the best relationship we could possibly have. I can't do my job without all of those people, and they need us to do their jobs as well. So really focusing on making sure that those are good relationships and positive relationships. And again, they're very helpful in my job, and so that's a large part of what we do in terms of helping our athletic department. And I think that helps in turn because we're able to really, there's a lot of times that sometimes football programs are really far away from the athletic department. At Stanford, we're not like that. And I enjoy that about my job. I'm able to really understand what a lot of other people do. And I think that they appreciate that. And then just keeping our coaches and our student athletes organized and helping make sure that they know all of those great resources that we have outside of football. It's really easy to get focused in on the small, narrow focus of just football, and there's a lot more university resources and athletic department resources out there.
Right. Now, you work for Matt Doyle, who's been there for a long time. When you came on under Matt and you had to develop the relationships that you speak about, and obviously working for Matt and him introducing the people helped with those relationships. But tell me what you did when you first started and over these last 6 years and how you've developed relationships with key people around campus that helps to support what you do, which helps athletics and football.
Sure. Well, first of all, Matt Doyle has been an incredible mentor for me ever since I started there. He really showed me the ropes and he really believed in me and trusted me. And even when I didn't know what I was doing, he's like, just go do it and figure it out. And I think that's the best way to learn. He had been there for over 10 years when I started, so he had a lot of really good relationships. But I actually started in the athletic department in game operations. And I think that was a really big advantage for me going into the football office because I had worked with such a broad group of people in our athletic department as it was from a game operations standpoint that I already had those really close relationships with all of those people. So when I jumped into football operations, obviously having Matt as a resource was great. But if I didn't know what to do or I needed help with something or I needed to get something done, I knew the people to go to because I already built those relationships, even just as an intern when I first started. And so I think it really goes back to, relationships are key. And in our role, that needs to be a priority, right? Like, and for coaches and athletes, they can focus on X's and O's and that's their job. But from an operations standpoint, it's really important to prioritize relationships. And at the end of the day, if you don't know how to do something, that's fine. But if you know the right people and you have the right relationships, you can probably get it done.
So you've leaned on those hard over this last 6 years.
Sure, yeah.
In football, coming from game operations, which is still operations, so there's a similarity to paying attention to detail and doing things at a high level. What I've known from my experience with football coaches is the language is a little different. They're a lot more direct, a lot more telling you exactly what they need. Or they'll tell you in football language, sometimes you have to decipher what they mean to translate it to execute at a high level. How was that transition for you, or how has that been over the last few years?
Yeah, so the one big transition when you jump into football, which I actually love about our role, is that you're working with those personalities you just talked about, but you're working with, quite honestly, I say 130 between your players and your coaches, but let's just talk about coaches. You're working with 30 really strong different personalities. And one of the things when I first started that I really focused on and I wanted to be really good at was working with each individual coach differently, right? So one coordinator might operate one way and another, the defensive coordinator, might operate a completely different way. Same with the head coach, right? I think a lot of people jump into situations and they deal with everyone the same, right? Because they just want to work how they want to work. And I think if you can really focus on, okay, I kind of understand your quirkiness and what you do that's different, but I'm okay with that. And I get that you're like that. And I understand that you're more direct, or I understand that, you might operate this way. And that's what I do when new coaches come in as well. I think if you can kind of focus on getting to know someone and really understanding how they work, then you can have a really successful working relationship. And I appreciate all the different personalities. Like I actually enjoy working with people that are different like that. And I appreciate the directness too. Like I was an athlete in college. Like I would way rather work in that way than the runaround that sometimes you have to deal with. So you have to be tough, though, for sure.
Well, speaking of one of the things you mentioned, the change in coaches. Stanford is a program that is very successful for a long time with head coach David Shaw. And when you're successful in college athletics, coaches leave and go become head coaches or go work other places. And there are a number of different coaches that worked under Coach Shaw that are head coaches now, and a lot of guys who are assistants everywhere else. So that means you have new people coming in all the time. And you talk about the quirkiness of learning someone new. Tell me about that process. I mean, obviously, they see you're there to help everyone be successful, so they're going to relate to you. But tell me about breaking through the initial, that thing when you're new to a place and you want to make someone feel comfortable and know that, hey, man, look, we're all here for the same.
Yeah, sure. And a lot of the times during the coaching transition, it's during a really chaotic time, right? It's like right at the beginning of the new year, they're going on their own recruiting. They're trying to get a hold of everything. So in our role as operations, like the first thing you say is like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. If you need anything, you come to me and I will either get it done or I will get you to the right person that can get it done. I think even just that is really important. And the other thing that I like to do often when we have new coaches is like, okay, this is how I work. Shoot straight with me. That's how I roll. I'm happy to. And I think it makes new coaches say, like, okay, I understand how you work. This is how I work. And it's really easy to build those relationships like that, as opposed to just assuming they're going to come in and work with you exactly how you work, And again, it takes work, but I think it's worth it because then you have these really great working relationships. And I think any great staff has that. Head coaches, David Shaw has that mentality, certainly, that everyone's different. But if you find the right fit and you find a way to work with each other, as opposed to just going to work, let's think about how we work together and how we are a team together. I think that's really important.
It's important. And Coach Shaw says, he always quotes something, start as you mean to go on, right? How I meet you initially is how I'm going to be when you talk to me 2 years from now,
sure.
Kind of thing. I imagine that philosophy is something that is involved with the whole culture of the program in terms of recruiting and in terms of bringing on new coaches, dealing with administration, and that whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And coaches talked about this frequently, and this is one of my favorite things he talks about is a lot of times people want to create a certain type of culture, right? And they say, okay, we're going to create this culture, and we're going to bring all these people in, and they're going to be a part of our culture, and they're going to become us. Well, what David Shaw says is that's not how you do it. You create a great culture, and then you find people that can fit into that culture. You don't bring someone in and have them change and expect them to become a certain culture. And he takes a long time hiring people, and our staff is small, and the recruiting process is longer. But then he has created this incredible culture of people who work together so well. But again, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of, you have to spend a lot of time doing it. And he's incredible, as you know.
And I heard a coach one time describe culture as the statement, what we do here, right? And that's what you're talking about. This is what we do. So we want to hire people who fit into what we do here. One small part of your responsibility is making sure Coach Shaw doesn't veer outside of the lines, right?
Sure.
Tell me about that, managing a personality at that level of an executive CEO of a football program.
Sure. Well, again, and he's my boss, so you probably think I have to say this, but I can't say enough good things about him. He's incredible to work with every day. In addition to operations, I also manage Coach Shaw's World, which is great. This has been our 6th season together, so we work very well together. It actually makes my job from an operations standpoint easier because I'm the quickest arm to him and quickest arms to operations, along with Matt Doyle. loyal. So that's been really good. And again, it's just, we've had a working relationship for 6 years. So when it first started out, we had to work in it. Like, he's never really had anyone managing his world. I never managed, and that's been really good. He's an incredible person to be around, and just being able to just hear what he talks to our team about and what he says in staff meetings, and just how he handles any situation, even outside of football, it has been incredible to deal with. But yes, I'm juggling a lot of balls at any given point, because managing his world and then managing our team and our coaches and our staff and all the stuff that comes with operations. But it's never boring, and it's enjoyable, and it's a really good relationship that David and I have.
I'd imagine you learn a lot about organizational leadership too in terms of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it seems to me that you do an excellent job there, Callie. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me on the One Question podcast.
Thank you for having me.
That was Callie Dale. She is the Associate Director of Football Operations at Stanford University. And this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of One Question is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.